No spin, no bias, no censorship. I'm Dan Wootton. This is Outspoken episode number 332. And the MSM and deep state cover-up over the Manchester terror attacker Jihad Al-Shami and the truth about his Islamist family whose behaviour had been reported to the police continues. Because breaking right now, a bombshell new report reveals Jihad called the police during last week's attack to pledge allegiance to ISIS, making a mockery of the claim from the authorities that they were not aware of his extremism. So we're being lied to again, folks. It's also emerged that Jihad had 3 wives in another flagrant breach of UK laws. Meanwhile, was an attempted arson at a mosque in Headlands, Kettering, a false flag attack designed to be used by bad actors to move the narrative on from another Islamist terror attack by the son of immigrant parents. That's the belief of Nick Dixon and Katie Hopkins after Northamptonshire Police charged Arif Ali Rafiq, a British-born Asian man.
In other news, it turns out that the guy who set fire to a mosque in Kettering was actually a Muslim, one of their own. So it wasn't any of those white people, those middle-aged white men that Gary Neville says are responsible for all the hate in this country.
Now, you only have to look at the truly despicable scenes of Islamist and hard-left celebrations on the anniversary of the October 7th Hamas terror attack yesterday to know that woke extremism is now seeping into every aspect of British life.
Hamas.
Up Hamas? You support Hamas?
I surely do. Why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I?
A terrorist organisation?
Yes, yes.
That chucks gays off buildings?
Oh, yes.
Heroes, every single one of them. We are proud of our armed resistance, and in Islam we call that jihad. That's an honour. That's how you defend your people. Yeah.
Astonishing. At least patriots, though, getting their own back against Gary Neville.
White, middle-aged men doing the Lord's work here.
Hang on a second. He's blaming middle-aged white men, the people that actually pay for Sky Sports, pay his salary.
So, big digest next. All of these important stories about Jihad Al-Shami and the false flag attack or potential attack that the MSM is choosing to ignore. Then the superstar panel are here, Father Calvin Robinson and Lauren Lunn Farrow of the Insider YouTube channel. Also coming up on the show today, Lenny Henry demands all British black people should be paid their share of £18 trillion in slavery reparations and what is his funniest joke ever. And Prince Harry has been plunged into fresh crisis after a major country in Africa dumps his African Parks charity following a string of scandals. How on earth can that guy have the front to accept a made-up humanitarian of the year award in New York tomorrow night? Then in the uncancelled after show on Substack, Meghan Markle morphing into Wallace Simpson as her sick Princess Diana stunt in Paris exposed as a money-making scam. We'll team up with royal YouTube sensation P. Diner for all the latest. You can sign up to watch at www.outspoken.live. Before the end of today's show, we'll also be revealing a new Greatest Britain and Union Jackass. Of course, you choose the worst Britain in the world today. Vote on our live chat in YouTube right now. Here are your nominees. Lenny Henry, put forward by It's Only Me 44 for demanding that every black individual in Britain should be paid slavery reparations costing around £18 trillion. Storm Huntley, she's going to feature very shortly, nominated by Matt Cass 48, who says, "Go girl, don't allow this moron presenter who is desperate to trip you over win," and she certainly didn't. And Yasmin Alibaya Brown, nominated by Scott Fly 237 for saying that we should make an effort to integrate with immigrants. Shall we greet them with welcome baskets when they arrive off the boats illegally? Very good question. Very good question. So 3 interesting nominees there. I think they're all first-time nominees, actually. Maybe apart from Yasmin Alabaya Brown. So get voting. I will bring you the winner at the end of the show. Let me know your feedback and comments as we go. But lots of breaking news, important breaking news. So let's get into it. Let's go. Have you noticed that so much of the control by the deep state working in tandem with the mainstream media is what they choose not to cover? So determined were they to move on from the narrative of another Islamist terror attack by the son of immigrant parents to whom our country gave refuge only to turn against us and try to kill us. They tried to claim that the real threat was not to white Jews or Christians being slaughtered, which actually happened, but rather Islamists in mosques. Indeed, the UK Minister for Police and Crime went way ahead of the facts and the justice system by claiming the admittedly awful arson on the Peacehaven Mosque was an example of anti-Muslim hate in our society. I mean, she even met with community and religious leaders to offer support. But that was fake news, as Nick Dixon claims. Certainly yesterday, we got the first hint at a potential false flag attack on a mosque designed to divert attention away from the actual terror attack on the Manchester synagogue by Jihad Al-Shami. Without any fanfare, in a story that was roundly ignored by the MSM, Northamptonshire Police announced a 43-year-old man has been charged in connection with an attempted arson at the mosque in Headlands, Kettering. Arif Ali Rafiq, a British-born Asian man, has been charged with attempted arson with intent to endanger life. The charge relates to an incident on the afternoon of Sunday, October the 5th, when an attempt was made to set fire to the front door of the mosque. Rafiq will appear at the Northampton Magistrates Court. And now, following that announcement, let the cone of silence begin. Journalists won't ask any questions hiding behind our draconian contempt of court laws. The trial will no doubt take months or even years, and by the time it's concluded, everyone will have conveniently forgotten. But if this had been a white man with an English name charged, it would have been leading every single damn news bulletin. If he'd ever tweeted in support of Tommy Robinson, then it would be the biggest story in Britain right now. At the very least, the Kettering case, in my opinion, should provide a cautionary example of assuming anti-Muslim motives without evidence. At least Katie Hopkins, who has been brave enough to return to the country despite a disgusting police investigation into her, as free speech in this country is just trampled all over yet again, at least she was prepared to go there. Watch.
News here in batshit bonkers Britain, where I have made it back into my own country without being arrested. The Crown Prosecution Service are still looking at my case to see whether I should be prosecuted and arrested again, or maybe have jail time for calling myself a spaz. I am a spaz. If that's offensive to anyone else, then I suggest you suck it up. In other news, it turns out that the guy who set fire to a mosque in Kettering was actually a Muslim, one of their own. So it wasn't any of those white people, those middle-aged white men that Gary Neville says are responsible for all the hate in this country. And finally, Robert Jenrick doing a terrific job. He said that in Birmingham, he hadn't seen a single white face. And I have to say, he's absolutely right. He's just pointing out the obvious. The really strange thing about my country is that when we become a minority, we don't get any of the rights that normally minorities would have. Robert Jenrick would find the same in London, Luton, Birmingham, Bradford, the list goes on. That's it for now. Batshit bonkers Britain.
Welcome back, Katie Hopkins. We need you. But have you noticed there is something of the Trump attempted assassin Thomas Matthew Crooks when it comes to Jihad Al-Shami? The MSM was happy with this idea that, this was just a bad apple from a nice Muslim family with a devastated dad who was an upstanding trauma surgeon. Indeed, his son's descent into extremism was no doubt because of that bad fall. He had a bad fall and he injured his head and, mental health. They were happy with that. Then the problems began because his father was exposed for praising the Hamas terrorists immediately after October the 7th, writing, "Men like these prove they are Allah's men on earth," and even praising Hitler. So all of a sudden, radio silence about the family. Just like with Axel Rudagabana after the Southport massacre, the authorities have been complicit in a cover-up to save their own skin. They certainly haven't told us all they should have. With GB News in the past hour revealing that Al-Shami made a call to 999 during his terror attack and pledged allegiance to Islamic State, meaning that this was an ISIS attack, pure and simple. Watch how this news has just been revealed.
Now, we've got some breaking news for you now, and it's huge. The synagogue killer Jihad Al-Shami rang 999 during his deadly attack, pledging allegiance to the so-called Islamic State, sources have said. The 35-year-old made the call, claiming responsibility for the attack after driving at worshippers in his car outside the Heaton Park Hebrew Synagogue in Crumpsall, Manchester, last Thursday morning, as Jewish worshippers attended for the holy day of Yom Kippur. Just to repeat that, significant development in this huge story. The synagogue killer Jihad Al-Shami rang 999 during his deadly attack, pledging allegiance to so-called Islamic State, sources have told GB News. The 35-year-old made the call, claiming responsibility for the attack after driving at worshippers in his car outside Heaton Park Hebrew Synagogue in Crumpsall.
Okay, so this was an ISIS attack. It was an ISIS Islamic attack. But can we just rewind a bit? Because the authorities knew, yet they still didn't tell us the facts. Indeed, they played dumb on the day. Do you remember that all was initially briefed was that he hadn't been on the radar of the authorities? Well, that was bullshit. We were assured that Jihad had never been referred to prevent and was unknown to law enforcement, even though neighbours had expressed concern about his fanatical interest in Islam. And he was out on bloody police bail after an alleged rape. There's much more to this, by the way, too. This afternoon, The Telegraph also reporting that Jihad had broken the law by having 3 wives. They report a white Muslim convert, 38, claims she endured a 3-year abusive marriage with Jihad Al-Shami, during which he raped her multiple times. The woman from Nelson in Lancashire, by the way, Nelson is such a problem. I'm going to come back to Nelson. I've got lots of relatives there. It's a real trouble spot. Is the third believed to have been married to the Islamist, whose terror attack at the Heaton Park Synagogue last week resulted in the deaths of 2 members of the congregation and left several severely injured. Al-Shami, 35, was also married to a British Pakistani woman with whom he had 3 children. He had adulterous relationships with other women and is thought to have also wed another white convert who worked as an NHS nurse. Messages between the couple show Al-Shami claiming he was entitled to have up to 4 wives under Islamic law when she confronted him about his first wife. "Look, I'm going to be honest with you," he wrote. "I do have a wife and a baby son at home. I didn't tell you because I really liked you and wanted you to be my second wife, but I didn't know how you would react." He added, "In Islam, a man can have up to 4 wives, but these days most women don't accept it. But I shouldn't have lied, it was wrong of me." Another message reads, "My first wife accepts and knows about us. Please forgive me for the lies." During the relationship, which ended in April this year, the woman miscarried Al-Shami's child. Other messages show him saying she was fucked up in the head and not worth it. Al-Shami is also known to have had an abusive relationship with an 18-year-old sixth form student, having told her he was 24, and to whom he revealed he had rape fantasies. The terrorist would stalk her and make her watch extreme Islamic State videos, she said. He is thought to have separated from the mother of his 3 children earlier this year. The white convert nurse, a mother of 5, was arrested on suspicion of terror offences at an address in Bolton, Lancashire on Friday and remains in custody. There's so much about Jihad Al-Shami and his family that we need to know. But it seems that it's only the left-wing Guardian that is bold enough to report the fears from locals about Jihad's Islamism. Now, my theory on this is because they are probably the only publication in the country unconcerned about being labelled far-right or racist. And I do give credit to their North of England reporter, Josh Halliday, who has been dogged in his pursuit of this story. And he writes that neighbours of the Manchester synagogue attacker reported concerns to police about a family member being radicalised and attempting to preach the Quran to local children. People who knew the family said they had concerns about the apparently fanatical interest in Islam shown by the killer and another member of the family. Okay, well, who? Who is the other member of the family? One neighbour said everything changed during COVID, when Shami and the other relatives started wearing traditional Islamic dress, holding private gatherings in the garden and attempting to preach the Quran. A neighbour told The Guardian they just started wearing all the robes and everything. I thought one relative was being radicalised because he wouldn't speak to us for a bit. He was coming up the road preaching to kids about the Quran. It was quite intimidating. It was intrusive. The neighbour, who did not want to be named, said she was really concerned and reported it to Greater Manchester Police in the summer of 2020 or 2021. So again, another indication that the Manchester Police did know about this man. And of course, that raises so many questions, especially given one witness reported Al-Shami shouting, "This is what you're going to get for killing our children," as he attempted to break into the synagogue. Another source telling The Guardian they didn't have any white friends. I thought, what the heck is going on? It wasn't just praying in the garden, it was private and secret. The problem is that we know the Islamist terror threat is something the MSM and political establishment try to avoid talking about at all costs. I mean, Robert Peston of Woke ITV even managed a whole monologue about the synagogue attack this week without mentioning Islam at all. This threat is something we're now expected to live with, but not talk about. Another shocking example from Tommy Robinson today, who posted receiving multiple reports of cadets in the Stockton area being warned they may be attacked while wearing their uniform. And the urgent notice read, "Can all cadets be aware of your surroundings and who is around you when arriving and leaving? Squadron, whether you are waiting to be collected or are walking home. It's possible that a black male wearing a black coat is following cadets from the squadron. Please also be aware that you should not be wearing your headdress outside the squadron. Please also wear your own coat over your uniform when coming." So just like the Lee Rigby attack, this is still a threat, but we're just not meant to talk about it. In fact, so many important stories are now being ignored because they don't fit the MSM narrative. Ignored. The fact Southport rioters were put directly in harm's way by Muslim gangs in prison, as revealed by this secret recording posted today by Basil the Great on X.
Both got put away for the riots, both been put in the same prison, both been put in the same cell. In the last 48 hours, the wing that they put them on was 90% Muslim. Both of them, one's been attacked in the shower, they took the shower heads off, battered him. When he managed to get back to his cell, his other mate had been completely battered as well. The family's obviously distraught and everything. They're making targets of them, as well as like examples of them. They're making targets of the lads. They did some damage to them as well.
Also ignored the fact Nigel Farage has been in court giving evidence against the illegal Afghan migrant accused of making death threats against him. Also ignored the fact Reform UK representatives are now being called fascist pigs by their political opponents.
It is Reform UK, and you are putting the leader of the ABC group in this group of five, a threat to democracy. And what you're doing is you're putting the welcome mat out to Reform UK.
That's enough.
Reform UK, a racist organisation.
Councillor Brodie, that's enough. Thank you.
Articulated by the Prime
No. We're not doing this. Jeff, stop. Councillor Adams, no. We're not having this tonight. We are going to move. I'm going to say, actually, just a tickle. I want to highlight some of the risks that our armed forces family, Councillor Adams, I'm talking, please. But Jeff, that's enough. Stop it. No.
Good Lord. So when there are those prepared to challenge the orthodoxy, I like to give them credit and give them a voice, no matter which political party they are from. Like Tory MP Nick Timothy, who did speak about the threat of Islam at the Tory party conference.
But actually, I think we need to be really honest with ourselves. The only reason we are talking about blasphemy today is because of Islam. Because there are some Muslims, not all Muslims, who want to have special protections for their religious beliefs. And there are lots of activist groups who are working very hard at the Labour Party to get them those protections. And I think that's wrong in a free society. And I think the reason we are even discussing it is because with some of those activists, there is obviously political menace for the government because the Labour Party is now confronted with the rise of the independent Gaza candidates who are now increasingly trying to organise as a political party. But there's also an underlying threat of violence, and there's a sense of fear. And we see that with the teacher from Batley who remains in hiding, the boys in Wakefield who were threatened with their lives after a Quran was scuffed. And we see it with the prosecutions of the two people who have desecrated Qurans in public as an act of protest. And this is obviously related to the sort of broader extremism that we worry about with Islamism in our society, which is also connected to the act of terrorism that we saw half an hour up the road in the synagogue in Manchester last week. And I don't think we do ourselves any favours by pretending that that's not the case. Now,
I mean, you only have to look at the truly despicable scenes of Islamist and hard-left celebrations on the anniversary of the October 7th Hamas terror attack overnight to know that woke extremism is seeping into every aspect of British life. Look at these scenes from King's Cross, BAE Systems and Tower Bridge and feel shame about our country. And then let's zoom in to some of the worst individuals. Heidi Bakram pointed out, this is Dr. Rama Aladan, who is a practicing medical doctor in the UK, saying she's proud of Palestinian armed resistance. She calls for the dismantling of Israel and the expulsion of Jews who are part of the Zionist invasion. Anyone want to be treated by her? Watch.
Number 3, the Palestinian people who are fighting for liberation, including armed struggle, as per international law, right, are heroes, every single one of them. We are proud of our armed resistance, and Islam, in Islam we call that jihad. That's an honor. That's how you defend your people. Yeah.
There were the flags being cut down violently in Hastings.
It's October the 7th, 2 years since 1,300 people were brutally murdered, and these flags were put up for the hostages, and this guy is taking them down. No, don't do that, you'll get arrested, alright? And they're taking it into assault, alright? And you're taking it down, alright? Don't take them down. It's 2 years since the victims, alright? 1,300 people were murdered, alright? Were murdered. And they're still hostages. This is for the hostages, 2 years. And you guys do that. This lazy assault me as well, alright?
Stuart, calm down, brother.
No, stop taking them down.
I'm taking these down.
Stop taking them down.
Why?
This is for the hostages, okay? It's 2 years today. It's 2 years today. It's 2 years today.
Calm down. Stuart, calm down.
Don't anti-Semites. Honestly, you're a Jew hater. You're a Jew hater. Why? I don't care. You shouldn't be taken down. Do you know this is 2 years today? Have some respect just one day. Don't laugh. Don't laugh.
And then what about the delightful old English pensioner who looks like the Gran from Catherine Tate, but who just happens to be a fucking vile terrorist supporter?
Up Hamas.
Up Hamas? You support Hamas?
I surely do. Why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I?
A terrorist organisation?
Yes, yes.
That chucks gays off buildings?
Oh, yes. And what about all the fucking Zionists? The terrible Zionists that have killed millions. For what reason? For not having their own. Not for taking their land.
Officers, she's supporting a prescribed organisation here.
A prescribed organisation. What a...
I don't support a surprise terrorist organisation.
Wake up.
I don't support anyone. That's illegal. This is what happens when you have a groomed old generation.
Let me ask you something. What do you have to say about the Zionist terrorist organisations who killed British troops?
Are they prescribed terrorist organisations in the UK?
Yes, everyone, and I'll have a word with you there.
It's a lovely lady who said that verbatimly.
Fuck off! Will you go fuck yourself? Go fuck off! You're not wanted here. You're not wanted.
Didn't really say anything.
Go piss off now.
I'm not doing anything. I'm an equal distance away. I'm like honestly here.
We are lost. Seriously lost. Now, the superstar panel. Lauren Lunn Farrow of The Insider on YouTube and Father Calvin Robinson with me. Father Calvin, not often I'm speechless. That last video left me speechless, but I want to get back to this breaking news because it feels very, very significant to me, Father Calvin, that we were lied to last week by authorities who never learn after the Manchester synagogue attack. Because do you remember, they came out and said, oh no, we knew nothing about this guy, lovely family, he's just mentally ill. That was all of the implication in the mainstream media. He had called 999 during the attack, Father Calvin, according to GB News, and pledged allegiance to ISIS. And yet again, they covered it up, just like they covered up his family's extremism, just like they covered up the fact that he had 3 wives and was on bail for rape.
We can pretty much guarantee that if the establishment, and by that I mean both the police and the media, don't give us details about an attacker, you can pretty much guarantee we know who or what denomination or demographic they belong to, unfortunately, at this point. They will do anything they can to avoid mentioning the words Islam, Mohammedan, Muslim. They don't want us to know that there is a massive problem in our country with Islam. And of course, we can all see it every day of our lives. Even wets like Nick Timothy are talking about it now. It's become that obvious. And so the police, the politicians, the mainstream media need to wake up and they need to get honest. They need to start reporting rather than narrating narratives and let us know what's going on truthfully and honestly. Because if they don't, the people will continue to turn on them. And then once we've had enough of them, we'll just do it ourselves. And this is pretty much what's going on, right? The media has been replaced by X and Wootton Outspoken and things like that. But the politicians will go next to and they will cry about it. But it's time. We've had enough.
We have had enough. And the thing is, Lauren, it's all about trying to manage us. And Father Calvin's right. They can't manage us anymore because we don't listen to the British Bashing Corporation or woke ITV and think that they're telling us the truth. But I am sick of being managed by the authorities. Why the hell did the Greater Manchester Police, I mean, I remember seeing the senior sergeant. We played his press conference or part of it here on Outspoken. Why did he not get up and say, we believe this man is an Islamist? He made a call to 999 during the attack, pledging allegiance to ISIS. Just be honest with us. Stop lying. Stop the cover-up. It doesn't work anymore. In fact, I would argue, Lauren, it only makes us angrier.
Yeah, 100%. And I am having sleepless nights, like I'm sure many other parents are. I'm
100%.
scared. We are now a minority. And why, as a Christian mother, if I hold this, I'm now a far-right extremist. I'm not having it. And I'm not the only one that feels like this. And the mainstream media, and I've said this on my channel a lot, they are censoring our news and the government are issuing D-notices. So when you read your news and you think, that's really weird, half the story's missing, that is why. Because yes, of course it's Muslim terrorists. It's not Christians and Jews, is it?
No, and Father Calvin Robinson, what about the potential of these mosque attacks being false flags, as Katie Hopkins has suggested? Because there were two over the weekend, and okay, we do not know the circumstances surrounding this one, and of course, you know, I abhor all violence, and I want to be very, very clear on that. But this mosque attack in Headlands, Kettering, the police have now confirmed that the guy who attacked the mosque was Arif Ali Rafiq, a 43-year-old British Asian man. Well, with all the will in the world, Calvin, we obviously don't know at this point what his religion is, but you would be surprised if this were a Christian or this were a Jewish man. And so it feels like the narrative, which was then embraced by the police minister, for example, was all about trying to move the threat from being towards Jewish people or Christian people and being towards Muslim people.
Yeah. The vast majority of terror threats in our country, I think it's over 90%, are from Islamists, are from the Islamic ideology. But the narrative being spun is that it's the other way around. It's the far right who are a threat to the minority faith groups or something like that. It's absurd. But both the Mohammedans and the Mohammedan appeasers have been arguing for Islamic blasphemy laws since the beginning, before this Labour government even got into power. Remember, there's that video with Sakir Starmer and Sadiq Khan talking about how they must do everything they can to squash Islamophobia, and when they get into power, they're going to put in new regulations that mean you can't criticize Islam in any way, shape, or form. That is a new form of blasphemy law, and it shouldn't be the case. You should be able to criticize Islam. In fact, we have a duty to criticize Islam because Islam is evil and contradictory to our way of life, our Christian values in the English way of life. And so there's a problem in that they can't push it quick enough. And so these may be false flags, either by the Mohammedans or the Mohammedan appeasers, in order to push through their Islamic blasphemy laws.
It's pretty funny to me that the true haters are now starting to get their comeuppance, because we've just had enough, haven't we, of the likes of Gary Neville, a middle-aged white man who's very angry and seems very embarrassed about being a middle-aged white man. So the way that people are hitting back in Manchester is just brilliant. As Mike Graham put it, this is so funny. Manchester answers Gary Neville. Have some British flags outside your hotel. Brilliant. And in some ways, I think that is the best way that we can hit back against such a anti-white racist, against such a British-hating moron. Let's get even more patriotic. Watch this.
White middle-aged men doing the Lord's work here.
Gary Neville, traitor scum. Hard to disagree. And even Nigel Farage, who's been shying away from lots of these culture war issues, decided to get involved.
Following those awful murders in Manchester, Gary Neville, much-capped England footballer, highly paid Sky Sports presenter, said this.
The division that's being created is absolutely disgusting. Mainly created by angry, middle-aged white men who know exactly what they're doing. Funnily enough, on one of my development sites last week, there was a Union Jack flag put up, and I took it down instantly.
Hang on a second. He's blaming middle-aged white men, the people that actually pay for Sky Sports, pay his salary. He's blaming them for all the division, not some evil, crazed, mad Islamist who went out to kill innocent people. I tell you what, this Gary Neville is so detached from reality, so detached from the average football fan, it is not true. I'm amazed that Sky Sports keep him on. What do you think?
Well, I am amazed too, but this is a deeply, deeply woke organisation which does hate the people who it broadcasts to, a bit like woke ITV. I find it really extraordinary. And there was an extraordinary exchange too on the Storm Huntley show on Channel 5, where again you watch Storm, who is one of those worst types of champagne socialist who actually looks down. Storm Huntley looks down on the people who watch her show. And I just wish the people who watch her show knew that they don't have to listen to bloody champagne socialist Storm Huntley. They can just come over to us on YouTube. But a lot of the audience are older and are maybe used to watching on terrestrial TV. But look at the disgust on Storm Huntley's face during this exchange.
Find it disgusting. There are millions of men out there driving white vans, right? Doing a job, making a living, and Gary Neville has slurred the whole lot of them. Why?
Well, I mean, he has, yes, but I think, would he not be classed as a white middle-aged man? I mean, I don't think he's saying that all middle-aged white men are angry. He's saying that there's a certain sector of white middle-aged men that are quite angry, that are causing divisions.
Wrong.
There's no angry white
so
middle-class
men,
middle-aged men.
Decent men, and he's got nothing to do with politics. He doesn't know politics. So how dare he make such an assumption about other people?
I mean, he pays his taxes, Caroline. He can have an opinion, can he not?
Not when you're slurring millions of white middle-aged people who are driving white vans.
Do you find the flag divisive at all, Caroline? Do you think it has been taken over by certain sectors of the population that may have unpleasant views?
Storm.
No. We're proud of our country, and with what's going on in the country, why should we not?
Just switch off. Honestly, just boycott these idiots. Seriously, just switch off. Switch off. Switch off. Storm Huntley does not deserve even any derision. She just deserves no viewers. By the way, all of those angry white men, Storm, what angry white men like this?
So basically, I support peace, love, unite the community all over England. We're a peaceful country. I'm a local lad. I'm born and bred in Old Trafford, like everyone will see. And I just want everyone to unite together, be peaceful, be calm, and this won't blow over. And you can only blame the government for letting these immigrants in. And unfortunately, it's not their fault. And yes, our jobs are gone. We're paying taxes, we're paying national insurance to help these people in the wrong way, which the government are doing. We should be at a level in this country where we all live in harmony, peace and love. No matter what colour you are, we are all the same. And I wish everyone good health, and there's another part to come. And I'm local, like I said. You're welcome to come to my garage for servicing, MOTs and anything else, even a cup of tea. Have a good day.
Good man.
Yeah, good man.
Trying to knock me off the ladder. Did you hear that one?
I got him.
So they are, blokes like that are the salt of the earth British men who you are degrading Gary Neville, Storm Huntley, and all of you horrendous woke-topians. To my superstar panel, Father Calvin Robinson and Lauren Farrer. I mean, Lauren, the look of disgust on Storm Huntley's face. Oh no, it's just the working class white men. It's like, who do you think is watching your show, you revolting woman?
She is absolutely repulsive. And, you know, my granddad was a tradesman, and these are the men that keep this country going. They pay the tax. And these are the men, actually, I would argue, that at Unite the Kingdom, I met so many amazing patriots, and you were there, of course, as well, Dan. And I did not meet one angry white middle-aged men or whatever they're on about. This is ludicrous. And we are patriots. We are good people. How classist as well to look down on people that drive a white van, or look down on people that are providing for their family. Would you rather they were on benefits, Storm, taking from the system? Because looks to me like we are the patriots that are propping this system up. And sadly, people are taking from it left, right and centre, and it's not going to protect our children.
100%. Father Calvin Robinson, do you understand why the mainstream media are looking so out of touch on this issue?
Yeah, of course. The thing is, white middle-aged men have a right to be angry. They should be angry. They're not. They're not angry enough. But they're being castrated. They're being pushed aside. They're being oppressed in their own country. There's been anti-white racism in England for far too long now. And actually, this accusation of division is absurd. The flag is something that should bring everyone together in the country. If you were in a country, that's one thing that unites everyone there. The flag, it's something we can all fly, something we can all say, we're proud to be in Britain, or we're proud to be British. Therefore, if people find that divisive, it's them, it's their fault, because they're saying, we don't like the flag, we don't like the country, we don't want to be united with the rest of you working class scum. That's what they're saying. So they are the ones who are divisive, and they can't see it. It's such a problem, isn't it? How can we bring people together that hate us and hate our country?
And Lauren Lund-Farrer, you've been behind the scenes in the past as one of Britain's top PRs trying to deal with this type of crisis management. But why is it that there is such a different treatment when it comes to this type of crisis involving Gary Neville? Because the group that he's attacked happened to be white and happened to be middle-aged and happened to be men. Then if this was another group with so-called protected characteristics, like, you just know that Sky Sports wouldn't be standing by him if he had made this comment about young Muslim men, for example, or old black men, or middle-aged Asian women. You know, any other group, he would be gone. He would be finished. I mean, what is it about these corporations where anti-white racism is seemingly either maybe not just accepted, but also, Lauren, embraced?
I would say it's embraced and it's encouraged. And these for-profit corporations are propaganda machines. We know they work hand in hand like this with the government on a set narrative. And so they don't want to alienate you know, the Muslim viewership or the Muslim readership, but oh, they're happy to just throw under the bus the white people of this country. And so, outspoken viewers, you need to start showing them who's boss with your wallet. You cancel those subscriptions to Sky. Forget having a TV license, cancel that. Because if they think that us white Christians and white patriots are that disgusting, then they won't want our money.
Well, indeed. And the thing is, this is happening all over the media, though. I mean, just today, Father Calvin, and I know you're probably not as much of a Big Brother super fan as me. Lots of people know that Big Brother's been a part of my life for years and years and years and years. But Woke ITV, Father Calvin, has just killed it off. Killed it off. So there's this guy called George who happened to be a Reform UK voter and a Nigel Farage supporter. And he has been utterly demonized on this show, Father Calvin. I mean, ITV have basically acted as if he's like a mini Hitler because he happens to support Reform UK, which we all know, right, just makes you centre right these days. I mean, it hardly makes you even on the hard right. And he has been kicked out of the show today over apparently unacceptable language and behaviour, but they won't say what. They won't say what. The suggestion is it's something to do with migrants. They got rid of Emily Hewitson, a friend of mine, Father Calvin, after going into the house for hours because she was a Tory. And then in another really shocking incident, they have also tried to humiliate this woman called Caroline Monk involving a trans and pansexual contestant because apparently she stated again, biological reality, oh, you happen to have a dick, you know, and they called her in and she was like, head and hands, my life is over. It just feels like social engineering now.
It's a humiliation ritual is what it is. So the first Big Brother was interesting. It was a social experiment and we could see what it would be like to put people together in a house and put it on TV. But these days, it's not about that. It really is a humiliation ritual. And if you step outside of the approved mainstream media narrative, you will be pilloried for it. And we're seeing that. It's amazing to me that Emily Hewitson was kicked out first and foremost because she's not even right-wing. She's a Tory still, for goodness sake. People who are still conservative, member of the Conservative Party today, are not right wing, and then this other guy or woman you've mentioned, I don't know who these people are, but it's just the fact that if you say something that's ordinary, like yes, a man cannot become a woman cannot become a man, which most ordinary people think and have always thought, then of course they'll ridicule you for it because they want to shape the narrative, and the way to shape that is by shaming people who don't agree with them and making them look daft. So people stop saying things that they think are normal because they don't want to be made to look daft. That's what it is, a humiliation ritual.
Lauren, it's just so sad to me, though. I mean, Big Brother, and I know some people will get it, right? I'm 42. So if you're my age, Big Brother's probably been part of your life. And I always loved it because actually it did used to be about free speech. It was a social experiment. Of course, there were always lines. You know, you'll remember what happened with Jade Goody versus Shilpa Shetty. But on the whole, the idea was you did bring different people from different groups of society into a house to have these discussions. Now it's like, if you happen to think like me, you shouldn't be going into that house because they just set out to destroy you.
I mean, this is the thing. If you live within that commercial world of mainstream media and all of those propaganda shows, you cannot say anything. You know, you will be cancelled if you query someone that identifies as a pink-haired cat. This is the insanity of the world right now. And, you know, these shows, sadly, they cannot continue because when you throw good people off of these shows for political reasons or create these reasons because they don't fit the narrative, you are pushing good patriots away. And it has just gone so utterly woke, but it's become sinister now because good people like me, Father Calvin, yourself, Dan, we are truly being labeled as dangerous people for thinking just what everyone's thinking, and it's not wrong. You know, a man is a man, a woman is a woman. That is a fact.
Exactly. And saying it, even if you say it in the Big Brother house, doesn't change the biological reality. Okay, even in Big Brother, biological realities still exist. Okay, Lenny Henry. Has he ever said anything funny? I have to be honest, isn't he one of these comedians, Lenny Henry, who has been around for decades and decades by virtue of the fact that he got through the early DEI schemes? Because there is no other explanation for a man without a funny bone in his body receiving so much praise and so many millions as a comedian. I mean, I can't think of one funny thing. Can you? One funny thing, one funny sketch, one funny show that Lenny Henry had produced. Well, that is until today. Until today, when Lenny Henry demanded that every single black person in Britain should receive a share of £18 trillion in compensation, in reparations. That would, of course, bankrupt the country. And finally, people all over the country are laughing at Lenny Henry, like this moment on LBC.
Quick comment on Lenny Henry, arguing that Britain should pay, get ready for this, £18 trillion in reparations to black people because of slavery. That would bankrupt the country many times over. John's in Coventry. John, your reaction to what he's saying. Good morning.
Oh, good morning, Nick. I just want to say that it's very unfair to put Lenny Henry down as unfunny, because after his comments this morning, I'm looking up incontinence pants because it's hilarious. I mean, it's the funniest thing he's ever said.
That's clever.
It's clever, but it's also true. It's also true. I mean, we should just laugh at this. But what I would say as a warning is very often these crazy ideas within a decade are all of a sudden things that are being pushed by the mainstream. So let's not just write this off as a joke, because he's very serious about it. So Lenny Henry has argued that Britain should pay slavery reparations to the country's black population. The comedian has co-written a book entitled The Big Payback, which supports the case for the UK to hand over £18 trillion in compensatory payments. So Lenny has argued not only in favour of a vast cash transfer to Caribbean nations, but also for money to be given to individual black citizens. Writing in the forthcoming book, Sir Lenny considers the position that all black British people need reparations for slavery, arguing that we personally deserve money for the effects of slavery. A supporting section of the book, co-authored with Marcus Walker, a TV executive and charity boss, sets out the arguments and historical precedents for giving compensatory payments to individuals as well as states. Most of Britain's 2.4 million black population is of direct African descent, and therefore not the descendants of people enslaved in the Caribbean. While this is not directly addressed in the book, the two authors argue that as modern racism was brought about by the slave trade, and all black people suffer the effects of racism, therefore all black people should be given redress. Sir Lenny argues that the reason we have racism today, and also why black British people are grossly overrepresented in the prison population, along with other disparities such as higher levels of black unemployment, are all because of the transatlantic slave trade. The book argues that it is fair for Britain to pay reparations despite no one alive today possibly having any direct involvement in the slavery, either as a perpetrator or victim. The book, to be published by Faber on October the 9th, concludes that not only should the money be raised to hand out trillions in reparations, but that these payments can and should be used for ridding the world of racism. Reparations must dismantle the foundations of Western society built on slavery and racism and make new foundations, the book argues. It says this can be done by the redistribution of power and changing how power is shared within countries and between countries. The book uses figures taken from the Brattle Report, a calculator by the Brattle Group of how much Western powers owe to former colonies in the Caribbean. Its total of $100 trillion was reached by attempting to quantify things like loss of liberty, mental pain and anguish, and also loss of potential wages suffered by slaves. Sir Lenny's book includes input from, of course, Bal Raberi-Addy, a crazy Labour MP, sorry, I added the crazy, and Kahindi Andrews, Britain's first black studies professor, who has in the past argued that Winston Churchill was the perfect embodiment of white supremacy and that the British Empire was far worse than the Nazis. The release of the book comes amid a growing movement to pressure European nations into paying reparations to the members of the Caribbean community. So, Father Calvin, a big windfall. Big windfall coming your way, mate. Are you happy?
This is so problematic, so dangerous, actually. Kehinde Andrews is a big racist communist, and his fingerprints are all over this. I have nothing against Lenny Henry. I don't think he's clever enough to write a book on reparations himself, and it seems he hasn't. He's clearly been heavily influenced. Some of the problems I have with this, communism, of course, has incurred far more deaths than Nazism, if we want to make comparisons to Nazism, as they often do. So communism should be avoided. This is rooted in communism, the idea of changing power dynamics and how countries are run, and basically taking power away from people and giving it to themselves, as well as taking money away from people and giving it to themselves, because reparations is silly. No one alive today was a member of the transatlantic slave trade. No one benefited from it, and no one was enslaved by it. It's ridiculous, this idea we should pay all black Britons as well as former colonies. Firstly, as pointed out, most black Britons aren't from the Caribbean anyway. But those of us who do have family from the Caribbean, my father's side are black Afro-Caribbean. I don't know if my father's ancestor was a slave or a slaver. Nor do most people. And so should slavers also, or descendants of slavers, also receive reparations? That's weird. Also, who pays? Where's the money coming from? Are we going to take money from British taxpayers, therefore from poor black people, to give it to rich black people? Doesn't make any sense. And in terms of this issue of this is why there are so many black people in British prisons, it's because of racism, which comes about because of slavery. No, the reason there are so many black people in British prisons is because black people are committing so many crimes. Therefore, we need to address the societal issues and the issues in black communities, and ask the questions, what's going wrong? A lot of it would actually come down to fatherlessness, which is pushed on people through communism. And that needs to be addressed because it's wicked and evil. And this idea that the colonies, the former British colonies, are all suffering because of colonialism. They benefited because of colonialism. They have the English language, the Christian faith, hospitals, railways, schools, charities. So much good came out of the British Empire, more good than bad. And most people have the capacity for good and evil, but people coming together under the British Empire were objectively, generally good. And actually, if you ask most former colonies, they would agree. Again, my father's side of the family come from Jamaica. The last poll that was taken on this issue in Jamaica said that Jamaicans would have preferred to have remained a part of the British Empire, a colony of Great Britain, because they know they were economically better off when they were. Whereas when they're left to their own devices, it's now a crime-ridden cesspit that most people don't want to spend time in outside of tourist attraction resorts. And so we have to look at the rest of the world. India invited Britain in. We didn't take over these places. We helped and governed, and once we leave, it falls apart. And so this whole thing is a scam.
Yeah, it is. It is a scam. It absolutely is. But unfortunately, Lauren, the fact that a big publisher like Faber is going down this path and the mainstream media are lapping this up, I think this is all about preparing us in the future for thinking this idea is sane. And I mean, we've even seen the King Charles, insanely sort of open up the door to this discussion being had.
It's toxic. It's ridiculous. The publisher is not going to make their money back on this book. All I can imagine is that his advance for it was so minuscule. And I'd like to ask Lenny Henry, is he going to give his member of the British Empire knighthood back? And is he donating his fee for this book back? Because it's grifty as well. I don't trust him. I don't find him funny. And it's so ludicrous that at a time when children are going to breakfast clubs, we're in really tough economic times where we're told there is not enough money to do a huge nationwide grooming gangs investigation. And so we know that children are still being exploited and groomed and have been targeted. But we can't look into that. But, oh yeah, let's just pay trillions and trillions of pounds. I'd love to hear what Lenny Henry thinks about things like the grooming gang scandal and child exploitation that's going on right now that we need to deal with.
Well, indeed, because the figures are just so vast here as well. I mean, By the way, I'm not being naive because I know that he's talking about the 18 trillion pounds to also go to Caribbean nations too. But I just want to contextualize just the types of figures that we're talking about, Father Calvin, because I just did some very basic number crunching. 18 trillion pounds accounts to 7.5 million pounds per black person in the UK. So, I mean, we're talking an astronomical amount of money.
Dan, I'm only half black, so do I get half that amount?
I was thinking that.
We've only just finished paying off, not long ago, I think it was about 10 years ago, we've only just finished paying off the money that we paid to end slavery. And people can argue whether that was a right or wrong thing to do in the way that it was done. But our country and our empire ended the transatlantic slave trade all around the world, not just in our countries, our colonies, but all around the world at great expense of not just the nation then, but future generations up until us living today. And so we don't owe anyone anything, not a single more penny. The debt has been paid. Be thankful and thank the country that we did this from.
Yeah, I know. It's all just so concerning where this is heading. And I think it's heading to a very, very dark place. And while people laugh today, you know, at some point, people are not going to be laughing. And again, just to contextualize those numbers, the UK's nominal GDP for 2024 was £2.884 trillion. So this would bankrupt the country. I mean, there's no question about that. We're already on the verge of bankruptcy. So the idea that this is even something that is affordable or practical, trust me, it's not. Breaking today, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle still intend to travel to New York in the next few hours to pick up the fake award that's being gifted to them of Humanitarian of the Year, despite the fact Prince Harry's African charity, which has been mired in controversy and scandal for years, is collapsing around him. I'm actually mortified for these two. I am mortified by the fact that they will, with a straight face, turn up at the Project Healthy Mind event and claim that they are the world's #1 humanitarians. In a year where Prince Harry has been accused by Dr. Sophie Chandjoka, the boss of Centre Bali, of all sorts, including racism and bullying. And in a week where Meghan Markle has been accused of attempting to cash in on the death of her mother-in-law in Paris with a truly traumatic stunt, which made me feel ill, actually, because you've got to be really effed up in the head to think, I know my latest money-making scheme is going to be cosplaying the final night that Princess Diana died. It's truly sick. And yet these two are going to show up in New York and literally claim to be the humanitarians of the year. And crazy woke people in New York, by the way, are paying millions of dollars to go and clap along. It's bizarre. But trust me, this African Park scandal is something I've been covering now for many months. I've always said it's like the grenade that is going to explode on Prince Harry because it's bad, right? It's truly, really bad and fucked up what went on within African parks. So Royally Sage said on this, those allegations against African parks must be worse than we heard. They just lost their status. The charity has been muckled. Another Harry charity hits blowback. According to Taz, posted another of Harry's associated charities is on the chopping block, and it certainly is. And this is because, by the way, an African country, an actual country in Chad, is blowing the whistle on the appalling activities, which, by the way, include rape and sexual abuse and financial mismanagement. I mean, this is the type of scandal that should end a charity. Here's the reporting in the Times overnight. Chad cuts ties with Prince Harry's disrespectful charity. The Duke of Sussex Conservation Charity has been removed from its role managing protected parks in Chad after the government accused it of arrogance, serious financial misconduct, and failing to protect wildlife. In a statement announcing the end of the 15-year partnership with immediate effect, Hassan Baket Jijmus, Chad's environment minister, said the charity African Parks had displayed a recurring, indelicate, and disrespectful attitude towards the government. Over 4 pages, the ministry alleged grave breaches of contract and financial irregularities, accusing the charity of keeping unaudited accounts and not being transparent over how funds were raised, managed, and spent. It alleged that the charity illegally collected tourism revenues, used tax haven bank accounts in the Isle of Man, and transferred capital and foreign exchange abroad to the detriment of Chad and in flagrant violation of national banking and tax regulations. The ministry also claimed African Parks had prioritised tourism over conservation, banned Chadians from certain sites, and failed to invest in essential equipment for rangers as poaching surged across its parks. Now, this is all on Prince Harry, by the way, because he became president of the organisation in 2017. Then he was promoted to the governing board of directors in 2023, assuming greater responsibility for management and strategy. But this is just the start, because it is a further dent to the reputation of African Parks, which has been criticised for adopting a militarised approach to conservation and has had cases of abuse confirmed against its staff. Earlier this year, an independent investigation found that employees of the charity in the Republic of Congo had beaten, raped, and tortured Indigenous Baka people. While African Parks acknowledged serious abuses, it declined to publish the full report, prompting accusations of secrecy and impunity. Well, can I just say, I'm going to go one step further than that, because to me, this is a cover-up. It is a total cover-up. And when the British Bashing Corporation sat down with Prince Harry in California earlier this year and were told they could ask anything, nothing was off limits. They didn't ask a word about African Parks because they do not give a damn about what is really going on with these underprivileged people in Africa, and they should. And this should be the end of Prince Harry as any type of humanitarian. So to my superstar panel, Father Calvin Robinson and Lauren Lunn-Farrow of The Insider. Lauren, you've obviously been covering all of the scandals swirling around Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, but can you believe that they are still intending to show up in New York after what Meghan did in Paris over the weekend, which to me is truly evil, seriously, and then after these new revelations involving African Parks?
I can believe it, because there is nothing they won't do to keep their faces out there. They are so deluded, and genuinely they can't be well in the head. And this is such a prime example of, they said they wanted a life of service. What they did was they have, oh yeah, let's do all this charity work, but they haven't done it. They just want to wheel out children, in my opinion, for pictures, or animals, or fly across the world, pick up an award, but they're not actually doing the foundation work that goes into running these things. And so he's broken the law. You're on the governing board with this, and this is like a nightmare. And there's nothing genuine about these two. They are so toxic. And yet again, innocent people are getting dragged into this. It's time and time again. They can't keep blaming other people. They must take accountability.
Father Calvin Robinson, you're in the US. Why is it that woke Americans still seem to want to give these two a pass, regardless of what happens? I mean, they are going to be toasted by the elites of New York in just a few hours, despite all of this stuff swirling.
I think it's because there aren't many of them left, Dan. Wokeism is dead. It's on the way out. But there's Oprah Winfrey, there's Whoopi Goldberg and The View, and there's Harry and Meghan. That's pretty much it right now. So they've got to continue patting each other's back and promoting each other and giving each other a platform as best they can, because no one else cares about woke anymore. Thanks to President Donald J. Trump and his A-team, it's been stamped out pretty much everywhere, and most normal people are able to say normal things again, thanks to the First Amendment, that free speech clause that they have, but also thanks to the fact that they know that the consequences are gone. Cancel culture is gone. Locking people up in prison is gone for saying the wrong thing. And actually, it means that woke won't survive much longer. So let them have their little shine in the sunshine while they can for the next few days or weeks or months, but it won't last forever.
And Father Calvin, when it comes to Africa, do you feel like Prince Harry was almost using Africa for many years? And he got away with it. You know, he hosted the annual polo tournament for Centre Bali. He raised some money there. And by all accounts, he was given a lot of credit. But actually, when you dig into what's been going on with both charities, Centre Bali and African Parks, there is a real debate about whether they're actually there to feather their own nest rather than do good.
Yeah, African Parks isn't looking too good, but then we covered Centre Bali quite in depth as well, and that wasn't doing too good either. I think Lauren's right in that he doesn't put the groundwork in. He doesn't actually want to do charity work. He wants the credit of having done charity work. He wants the prestige. They both do, him and Meghan. They want the honours, the awards. They want their name to be bandied about, but they don't want to put the legwork in. And that's where he's different to his mother. His mother was on the ground doing the work with the people, helping people. That's what charity work is. Charity is helping people. Charity, it literally means love. It's to love people. It's not just to splash around a bit of cash or gain a bit of cash, as he seems to do with most of these charities. He brings a shame onto the name charity.
And Lauren, I do think that is one of the issues here. Harry wants all of the power and the prestige that comes with so-called charity, but actually there are consequences. You know, you've got to be very careful if you are taking on such senior positions.
Yeah, I mean, he wants the title, but he doesn't want the work. And it's grifty. It's absolutely disgusting as well, I think, to manipulate and use charities for personal gain with your image. We've seen it with Andrew and Sarah Ferguson, and what Harry's done, we've seen it. This isn't the first time, but it has to stop, and he has to be held accountable, because how many times do we see these things happen with the elites and there's never an investigation, or, oh, they didn't sign this, they weren't across it. Or if you're on the board of governors, you should be across it. And if you weren't across it, then you should be held accountable because you're not doing the job that you were brought on to do.
It was also really awful how Meghan was exposed at Paris Fashion Week for laughing inappropriately at a model who could have injured themselves on the catwalk. Watch this.
At one point she sat on the front row and a model tripped and she burst out laughing. And then she realised that was obviously quite a cruel thing to do, so she sort of covered it up.
Lady Colin Campbell, our friend, Outspoken regular, has a very interesting take on this. She posted, I don't know why anyone would be surprised by Meghan Markle's cruel reaction, laughing when the model at the Balenciaga fashion show stumbled. It is noteworthy that she is the only person who laughed. Nor is this the only verifiable occasion on which she has showcased the pleasure she gets when others hurt themselves. In June 2018, following the Trooping the Colour ceremony at Horse Guards Parade, when the royal family was assembled on the balcony, as Field Marshal Lord Guthrie and many of the other participants were making their way back to Buckingham Palace by Queen Victoria's statue and he fell off his horse, Catherine's expression of horror was apparent beneath the hand that was covering half her face, while Meghan guffawed, as if she were witnessing a comedy and not the possibility that the former Chief of the General Staff of the Army and then Colonel of the Life Guards had either died or could have. That same day, on that same balcony, Charlotte fell and hurt herself, and while Princess Anne's granddaughter and Catherine rushed to her rescue, consoling her, what was Aunt Meghan, the humanitarian's response? More laughter. And Lauren Lund-Farrow, it did really feel like one of those moments where the true Meghan emerged. And she's sitting next to Marcus Anderson, her gay BFF who set this whole thing up on the front row. And he's like, what the hell are you laughing at? You stupid woman. And she's then annoyed that he didn't laugh along.
But she's sat there at the front row laughing at someone that's hurt themselves. But she's also sat at a fashion show that has previously used toddlers and very young children in the most awful, awful way that I actually didn't put the pictures on some of my YouTube videos. It was children in bondage type clothes holding bondage teddy bears. And this brand should have been cancelled for that long ago. And you will not meet a celebrity publicist that is good at their job that would have their clients attend a Balenciaga show. So not only does she go claiming to actually care about children and online safety, it's rubbish. She is a liar, and we can see her timeline of her awfulness is so consistent. No one with a brain cell can actually query this at this point. She is vulgar.
I mean, Father Calvin Robinson, it is extraordinary, isn't it? I mean, this is a woman who claims to care about the online protection of children. And that Balenciaga child sex campaign was so awful that even her best friends were publicly calling it out. But because she has this craven desire to be connected to a high-end fashion brand, it's like, just look the other way. You know, just look the other way. Pretend that they didn't actually use children as sexual props in one of their campaigns.
Meghan's laughing, her grin is wicked, and everyone's stoic faces around her shows her up. But you're both absolutely right to point out that worse than that, Balenciaga is evil. And if they're not a paedophilic organisation, at the very least they've hired paedophiles to do their campaigns in the past. So we've all seen the material. I remember Ali London covered it quite well as well, in that they even renamed their brand to BAAL to make it look like Baal, the demon. They're quite in your face with how dark they are, not just taking children and putting them in bondage gear and putting weird things around them and the links to the demonic, but literally using the name of a demon in their propaganda. It's like, how on the nose can you get with the darkness? And for her to be associated with it just shows that she's more interested in power, influence, prestige, these worldly things, than she is with actually being good and doing good. But we've known that all along, but I suppose it never stops to surprise us when we see it and when we see how obvious it is.
No, it really is extraordinary. It's extraordinary. I mean, a lot has left me speechless today, but the fact that in these circumstances, these two are going to roll up to New York City and with a straight face accept the award for Humanitarian of the Year. Can I just remind everyone, they admitted they work for an hour a week on Archewell. Prince William's just raised £23 million for the Earthshot Prize over the past year. So let that sink in. These two are not humanitarians, but absolutely brilliant stuff, as ever, from my superstar panel, Father Calvin Robinson and Lauren Lunn Farrow, who's brilliant. The Insider channel is must subscribe on YouTube. And of course, you can find Father Calvin on YouTube and Substack as well via my recommendations. Thank you both so much.
Thank you.
And we're going to reveal today's greatest Britain and Union jackass in just one moment. First to your comments. So thank you so much for joining Outspoken Plus, Wi-Fi, Biological Female 84 and Steve Edwards 2. And Steve Edwards, by the way, says white rights matter, which they absolutely do. And that should be such a non-controversial statement, right? I like this from Richard B, though. This made me chuckle, Richard. I demand reparations from Lenny Henry. He has misled the British public for decades under the guise of being a comedian and funny. Pay up now, Lenny. Claire F says, the coverage your channel did of the Unite the Kingdom rally was great. The unity and all the speakers. Thank you to all the auditors for being brave. So many to name. Thank you, Claire. It was a really great moment for the channel, and I really do appreciate that. Kate Murphy on this NHS pro-Hamas doctor says that doctor should be disbarred. Political views on jihad does not make her safe to practice. Margaret Yates says, I'm old, Dan. And I don't watch the MSM or any of that rubbish. I don't have a TV. I watch your channel. Greatest place to get the news from. Margaret. I know. Do you know what? So many of you are so amazing and so switched on. I was speaking to, gosh, I think she was an 88-year-old the other day who watches Outspoken every day on YouTube. So I absolutely understand that. I guess the point that I was making was about Storm Huntley and the fact that I really think some people are just so tuned in to that idea of turning on terrestrial television, turning on Channel 5, because why the hell else would you sit through that rubbish? That was the bigger point I was making. And Jackie Gummer on the Big Brother scandal says, I was watching BB because I wanted to vote for George to win. I will not be watching it ever again. And I sadly think boycotting is probably the only way forward now. Okay, let's reveal today's Greatest Britain and Union Jackass to your nominees. Lenny Henry, put forward by It's Only Me 44 for demanding that every black individual in Britain should be paid slavery reparations costing around £18 trillion. The aforementioned Storm Huntley, nominated by Matt Cass 48, who says, don't allow this moron, presenter, who is desperate to trip you over, win. She certainly didn't. And Yasmin Alabaya Brown, nominated by Scott Fly 327 for saying that we should make an effort to integrate with immigrants. Shall we meet them with a welcome basket when they arrive off the boat? Okay, here are the votes. With 4%, Storm Huntley. The runner-up with 34%, Yasmin Alabaya Brown. But today's Union Jackass with 61% of the vote after his reparations joke, which was very much unfunny, Lenny Henry. 61% of the vote. Wow, that didn't go down well. Today's Greatest Britain, nominated by Thunk Thought, is Robert Jenrick, who says doubling down when criticised over didn't see another white face in Handsworth, Birmingham. Great nomination. Okay, we're moving over to Substack now for the Royal Uncancelled After Show, where P. Diner is standing by. We've got so much more royal news to discuss. So at this stage, we're going to come off YouTube and Rumble and move to Substack to continue the Uncancelled After Show. I'd love to have you join the community. www.outspoken.live. It's also very interesting for me to note that we're now available as a podcast, which you can subscribe to completely for free wherever you get your podcast. But specifically, I would recommend Apple Podcasts or Spotify, where we are now available on video as well. If you do subscribe, totally for free, please do me a big favor, rate and review. It really helps boost the show. But we are back live tomorrow, 5 p.m. UK time, midday Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Hit subscribe to be alerted on YouTube or Rumble. And most importantly, I promise to keep fighting for you.